Anne Heche was raised in a home by a monster of a father who posed as a priest and a mother who disowned her over her toxic relationship with Ellen DeGeneres. There was so much sadness in Anne's life, from her brother's tragic car accident to her own mysterious car crash. There's a lot to unpack here, so let's get into it. Anne Heche was a troubled actress who struggled for most of her life. We saw her bizarre car crash that led to her death make headlines, and ever since then, I've been curious to what led up to that moment. And looking into her history, it is sad. She has stories of her father, who was a preacher, R-wording her, and her relationship with Ellen DeGeneres just cut off her relationship with her own family. So she had no family, a lot of trauma to work through, and the Hollywood industry to take advantage of her. Anne's life has been beset with pain and heartache even before her fiery car crash in California. Her family constantly moved as their father struggled to provide for the family. She was born in Ohio, and her transient family would move to southern New Jersey, back to Ohio, and then to Chicago. Her father, in 1983, Donald, became one of the first people in the United States to be diagnosed with AIDS, which is how his family found out that he was homo. I mean, he's a Baptist minister and a choir director, so it's interesting that he had a secret homo life. According to Anne, her father never admitted to being gay, and he died from the disease at age 45. It's so fascinating to me that there's like this community of like people who are priests and who commit these crimes, and it's not like he was like, and again, like being homo is not a crime, but the crime I'm alluding to is him doing things to his own daughter. So he's more than just like a gay man, he's a perv. According to Anne, she was R-worded and M-worded from the time she was a toddler until she was 12 years old. What the hell? Her father, Don, he is down in hell. She said, I think it's hard for children to talk about this because it's only a memory. I didn't carry around a tape recorder. I didn't chisel anything to stone. I can't like provide proof, but yes, this did happen. In her 2001 memoir, Call Me Crazy, she disclosed that her father was a homo and did these things to her and gave her STDs as well. She was also worried that he had transmitted the disease to her, but it doesn't appear so. She said, at the time there were things like bathhouses and a lot of tricks to get away with, being gay in secret. In order to cope with everything she had gone through, Anne developed an alter ego named Celestia. Interesting. She told Barbara Walters in an interview about this persona, saying, I believed that I was from another planet. I think I was insane.
I had another personality. I had a fantasy world that I escaped to. I believed I was from another planet. I spoke a different language.
Can you still remember that language you spoke?
Of course.
Can you do any of it?
Akines, akaforka tunadon. It is a good fortune, Istadon, to be here.
Maybe in hindsight, Anne could say, oh, I thought I was going insane. But at the same time, that is such a clear way that a child is trying to escape their own reality by creating this world to cope. It's going into survivor mode. She said her father was also schizophrenic. He lived two completely different lives. He was a heterosexual man who directed the choir and worked at church, and then another one who was gay. This only gets more tragic because 3 months after her father had died, her brother Nathan passed away at the age of 18 in a car crash after apparently falling asleep at the wheel. Anne said that she believes that he had taken his own life. When speaking about her mother, she says, I always wondered if my mother was conscious, if you can treat children that way and still love them, alluding to the fact that her mother ignored everything. She said that she did not feel that it was possible to still love your children and then allow them to suffer. She said thanks to a role in 2004 in a movie titled Gracie's Choice, Anne played a toxic alcoholic mother. She said that she came to terms with the idea that her mother did not love her through this role. I guess by playing this role as a mother who's an alcoholic, who harms her children, she realized, oh, this is actually my mom, and it makes sense now that this is the kind of person she was. So after her father and brother's death, they moved to Chicago, where she was spotted by an agent in a school play. She was still in her teens, and when she took the dual role in a soap opera, Another World, her mother opposed to her becoming an actress. She also played twins, one good one and one bad one. She spent 4 years on the show from 1987 to 1991 and actually won an Emmy. She made her film debut in 1993 in an ambush of ghosts, but it was her role in Donnie Brasco in 1997 that brought her attention. In 2002, she was on Broadway. 2006, she ended up with her own series, Men in Trees, and then later she starred in the series Hung and the military drama The Brave. So Anne was a working actress out here. She took any gig that she could, and she did well. That was until Ellen DeGeneres came into the picture, so let's get into it. Ellen actually told the Tampa Bay Times in 1998, "I met Anne at the Vanity Fair party. It was a chemistry thing that you can't really describe. It just happened. Obviously, I was attracted to her, but that wasn't enough. There are a lot of attractive people. She is so unique." Ellen came out in 1997 as lesbian on her show, and they became Hollywood's first openly gay female couple. They were celebrated as poster girls by the lesbian community, and Anne believed their 3-year fling ruined her career. The pair would go on to face an uphill battle as their love became the subject of much public scrutiny. They would also go and walk red carpet events together, and even though their teams were telling them not to, they did it. And honestly, I have to give kudos to them because they paved the way to where we are today. She claims once her and Ellen were out and about, she was told that her contract with Fox would be ended. She would be fired. She actually said that both she and Ellen were fired that week, and they were starting to get blacklisted. That's actually when the Ellen show was canceled for the first time. Anne claims when they went public with their relationship, she did not understand the effect it would have on her family, saying, "I was naive, hugely naive. I fell in love and didn't believe people would care. The Hollywood community and friends and family backed away." She said her religious mother did not speak to her after the actress came out. She also said that her 2 sisters remained distant from her. Anne's mother, Nancy, actually did put out a statement. She told the Christian Broadcasting Network that she felt like her daughter's relationship with Ellen was like betrayal of an unspoken vow. "We will never have anything to do with homosexuals." Now, with time, it seems like Anne has gotten more and more angry with what Ellen had done to her. I mean, I don't know if it's fully Ellen's fault. I mean, Anne also wanted to go and be public, but she's blaming Ellen. She says, "I didn't do a studio picture for 10 years. I was fired from a 10 million picture deal and did not see the light of day in a studio picture." The heartbreak dominated the gossip pages back in August 2002, when an incoherent and babbling Anne knocked on the door of a stranger's home in Central California and was eventually carted off by an ambulance to a hospital. This was hours after her relationship with Ellen had ended. This is actually when she was referring to herself as Celestia, and she was looking for a spaceship. So clearly she went and did something after the breakup because she could not cope, and she kind of reverted back to this thing that she did when she was a child. She was admitted to a psychiatric unit but was released within hours. In 2001, Anne married Coleman LaFoon, a cameraman she met on Ellen's stand-up tour, and a year later they had a son together, Homer, which I love the name Homer. It's kind of cute, right? Homer, or no? Is it not? Comment below. I like the name Herschel too, but everyone's always like, "Oh, I don't like that name." But like, imagine Hershey. You call him Hershey. Years later, she addressed that moment where she showed up at a stranger's home saying that she had been taking ecstasy and dealing with the trauma from her childhood. Just to remind you guys, here are some details about that incident. First off, Anne drove from Los Angeles to the San Joaquin Valley, eventually ending up in Cantua Creek, a rural area in western Fresno County. She then abandoned her vehicle on the side of the road and walked about 1.5 miles in extremely hot weather wearing only a bra and shorts. Feeling dehydrated, she knocked on the door of a ranch house. The homeowner recognized her from the movie 6 Days, 7 Nights. According to reports, Anne made strange statements to the residents, prompting them to call for help. The deputies and ambulance were called to the scene, and Anne was taken to a nearby hospital. So that is quite a story. I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about her interactions with Harvey Weinstein, because Anne claims that Harvey fired her after she rejected him. After more than 60 women have came forward with stories about Harvey, Anne is alleging that he fired her from a project after she rejected doing things orally with him. Ew, I mean, he's disgusting. Anne said, "First of all, you were threatened the second you walk out the door. I did not suck his wiener, though he showed it to me. I got out of the room before there was any physical contact. The fact is, I was fired from a job I was hired for. The repercussions of standing up for yourself were as deep and targeted as some of the scars of the women who actually got more physically and unfortunately involved." Speaking out against Harvey Weinstein was one of the biggest things Anne did before her death, and I want want to talk a little bit about this car crash because after learning about her brother, it's sad to see the two incidents side by side. A little over 2 years ago, August 5th, 2022, Anne was behind the wheel of her Mini Cooper when she crashed into a house in the West Hollywood neighborhood of Mar Vista. A fire broke out and Anne wasn't freed from the wreckage until 11:59 a.m. So that's like almost an hour that she's stuck in this fire. Given the heavy fire and smoke conditions, it wasn't that you could clearly see into the vehicle or clearly access it, explaining why it took more than 20 minutes for them to start pulling the car from the burning house. Imagine being in that house and hearing that poof, like someone hit your house. I remember in my neighborhood growing up, someone did drive a car through the living room of a home. I don't think anyone was hurt, but like this happens. Now, her death was ultimately ruled an accident, which a lot of people question. They determined that Anne died of inhalation and thermal injuries. So it was mostly from the heat. She did have a fracture from like, I guess the actual accident, but it looks like she really burned to death. Oh my God, burned to death. That sounds terrible. Poor Anne. She was not impaired by any drugs or alcohol at the time, but blood drawn from Anne in the ER showed an inactive cocaine metabolite, which indicated she used some in the days prior, but not like she wasn't currently high. A urine sample taken from at the hospital. Oh, can they take urine from the dead? I guess they can. Oh no. Traces of weed and benzos, which weren't present in the blood, but it looks like they weren't like high doses of it, so it was just like pretty much therapeutic. Now, there are a lot of conspiracies. I want to give you guys a trigger warning, I guess, but we're getting into conspiracy. So just like, you know, put your little conspiracy cap on and, you know, like we're using our imagination a little bit. Now, a lot of people believe that she was actually killed by some secret society, like possibly the Illuminati. One person writes, sacrifice hit. Popular actress Anne Heche was alive and tried to escape a body bag after the fiery crash. She was later pronounced dead, and she was currently working on a movie titled The Girl in Room 13 about Epstein. Ooh, there's a conspiracy there. More footage has been released than what we've seen on the news. So here's a clip I came across where you can see how fast this vehicle was going. Wait, it's pretty insane to see that like there's like the camera jolting almost because the car was going so fast when it was driving by.
Breaking news at 6. Actress Anne Heche seriously injured after crashing her car. Skyfox overhead when she suddenly sits up on the gurney, surprising firefighters.
Okay, wait, hold up. So did she sit up? So was she alive? I thought she was pronounced dead at the scene. Let's talk about some thoughts when it comes down to this. It actually gives me anxiety. I'm like breathing harder. So she was trapped in the car for about an hour in flames. How would she be alive? She was rolled and wrapped in a gurney as if she was dead, then woke up out of nowhere. Almost like she knew she was going to the hospital and maybe knew there were people after her. I don't know. It's also really weird that all the news outlets were reporting that she had gone to the hospital and she was in stable condition. And at one point they reported that she was going to face a charge because of this. A few hours later, she was on life support, and then a couple days later, she was dead. Now, clearly she did not die at the scene, but she was very badly injured. I do think it's interesting how she was able to like sit herself back up. Like, how do you then get worse when you go to the hospital? But again, burns are very, very complicated. Like, I just had a terrible burn on my hand. Ow, you can kind of see it there, and it hurt. This person added that she's clearly not dead here, and she was covered up like she was. Looks like an Illuminati hit. Now, TV news footage did show a woman at the crash scene sitting up on a stretcher, struggling as firefighters carried her into an EMT. She was critically injured at that point. It took 65 minutes to extinguish the fire and to rescue her. Anne sustained burns and a severe anoxic brain injury from the crash, which is probably why she died, because she was essentially brain dead. But also, wait, if she's brain dead, how did she sit up? I mean, I don't know what brain dead necessarily means. I thought it means you go into like a vegetative state. After her crash, friends and co-stars paid tribute. Alec Baldwin saying, "Everyone please send their support and love to Anne." Ellen even tweeted, "This is a sad day. I'm sending Anne's children, family, and friends all my love." Ellen, get out of here. Wow, that was a heavy story, but I feel like we needed to talk about it. I've seen Anne's name all over my comments before. You guys have been wanting me to talk about it, and you know what? I'm glad I did. Thank you for the recommendation. If you have any other video ideas for me, my email is SloanWellKnown@gmail.com. But until next time, I will see you in a new video soon. Bye, guys.